Good morning, Namaste, Suprabhatam. It's my honor, and it is with a lot of reverence and not a little amount of trepidation that I dare to introduce my spiritual guru, the person who's transformed my life, and the person whose presence is going to transform all of us today, Sri Ramachandra Roddam ji. Please, sir. An experience like this, learning like this, is not just about the content. It is primarily about presence. And what you're about to experience is presence that comes from the service of the sacred. So Sri Aurobindo and Mother have anchored all of us in the sacred divine, and Sri Ramachandra Roddam ji represents and lives that tradition. And he runs the Sanatana Siddha Ashram, which is in service of the Baul tradition. The Baul tradition, for those of you who are aware of it, is predominant in the Western Bengal and other parts of Bharat. And it's an age-old, almost 1,000-year-old tradition that has been living through music, through devotion, through service, in the service of Dharma. So I invite Ramchandra ji to take the seat, bless us with his address. And for all those who are attending this and who feel inevitably inspired by the presence and the sacred sort of aura, I would invite all of you to also check out the ashram at Sanatan Siddhashram in West Bengal. And for those who are interested in details about the programs and what the tradition does, we would be happy to answer that after this. Thank you.
Shri Meeraravindaya Namaha. And in the Baul Sampradaya, we wish each other Joy Guru. Joy Guru. It's a Guru Tattva, meditation on Guru Tattva. I feel very blessed to be here. It's always a blessing to be here in the ambit of Auroville Ashram. To be in the midst of ever unfolding manifestation and vision of Mother, that is Auroville, the one who sowed the seed and of Auroville. The seed has everything, the beginning and the end. And the seed comes from Mother. So in our Sanatana Dharma traditions, we call the presiding force as Adhishtatri, the one who presides over something. The one who presides over something is verily in complete control of everything that happens in the manifestation, the process of manifestation. So the manifestation, what is this manifestation, what we are talking about? Nothing but Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. There is creation, there is sustenance, and there is dissolution. So we as a culture have never shirked, or we were never diffident with the idea of dissolution. As soon as something comes into creation, we immediately accept, oh, this is also going to go. So, in the seed, all three are there. And when we say Mother is the Adhishtatri, the one who presides over this for Auroville, she presides over every single moment of this all the time. At least that is the faith and the devotion with which I come to Auroville, fully knowing well this is what this beautiful space is all about. Now, yesterday in just a cursory conversation, Malikaji was telling me that you have all been deprived of your mobile phones for some time, and you are probably still in that state of abeyance. So I was worried, that means I will be meeting a lot of restless people. And but then she, being the yoga acharya, she knows how to calm down the nerves and set the base. Peace is the most important foundation on which alone something can be received. If that is not there as the basis, nothing can be received, nothing can be achieved, nothing can be sustained. You cannot dance on a restless floor, right? So thanks to her for setting up the base here and calming you all down. But I don't think you are still feeling the sense of deprivation anymore. A little bit more away from the screen, you will start feeling liberated. So that is the usual trajectory. When you don't have something that you are deeply attached to in your hand, first comes restlessness and agitation, denial, diffidence, rebellion, and then comes acceptance. ये तो ऐसे ही होने वाला है. Nothing is going to change. So you come to the state of acceptance. Then comes sense of wisdom. This is actually giving me a lot of space. What should I do with so much time? There is suddenly expansion in your head. And this space was almost invisible, non-existent, inaccessible for you. But now, suddenly you are aware of this space within. And then, again, restlessness comes. How do I fill up this space? I should decorate it. I should ornament it. I should do something with this space. What you choose to do with this space at this point in time depends on your sense of meaning, purpose, and beauty in life. Because now the canvas is in front of you. You have moved from the trajectory of restlessness. You have traversed the phase of acceptance. And you have now arrived completely aware of this space which is immanent and which is existent within you. Now what are you going to do? This becomes extremely important. You can muddle it again. You can contort it. You can convolute it. You can do many things again with it. But you can also feel beauty in every square inch of that corner. You can infuse Shakti in every speck of that space that has manifested in you. And this job and this engagement of manifesting Shakti, filling it with love, filling it with beauty, it is Nitya Upasana. It is endless. It is not meant to be done today and forget tomorrow. And this gives you an opportunity to get introduced into a possibility of living life in an uninterrupted way, coursing through, meandering through its so many convoluted routes and paths that emerge because of the karma. But still, now you are not burdened because you are familiar with space. You are friendly with space. There is mitratva, maitri with the space. You are not anymore restless with the space. So this is extremely important. Stepping away from that little magical screen, I have put a little bigger one in front of me here, but and finally comes a sense of liberation. After all, I'm not bound and tied to this. I need not be. And this two facets of remaining in an uninterrupted, joyous union with your own life, filling up the space with beauty, meaning, purpose, and whatever that you are wanting to manifest, with a constant sense of accompanying with a sense of freedom, liberation. To be in this is yoga. This is what yoga. This is your sthiti. This is your natural state. This is your sahaja avastha. Sahaja means Sa means with, along with which. Ja means you have taken birth. You have taken birth with this space, along with. It is not to be created. It has to be just unraveled, uncovered, discovered, and reconnected. Right? So before I plunge into sharing my thoughts and sharing my own experiences, I would just like to understand, you are so many people, who has come from where roughly, and I know some of you might be even from, maybe not from India in case, but raise of hands just regionally I wanted to check, north, from northern side, how many people are there? Okay. You're doubtful, north, आजकल थोड़ा confusion होता है. गुजरात, हाँ तो ठीक है ना, वेस्ट हो जाएगा, ठीक है. वेस्ट इज, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट महाराष्ट्र, गुजरात, a bit that, so okay. And east, anyone from eastern? Acha. Okay. And central? Okay. South? Okay. Fairly well distributed, huh? Somebody overseas? Yeah. Not yet. Okay. No problem. So I am someone from south who is spending a lot of time now in east. So ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमित्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं त्वं नमामि. This Guru Dhyan is describing attributes, is a very weak word, but it's a contemplation on Guru, the Guru Tattva. One of the important aspects in this, Brahmanandam, we don't know what it is, okay, we just say it. And Satchidananda, we don't know what it is, we say it. But we say it. But it says a beautiful word. Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam. We don't know what Paramasukha also. Okay? But we know as an aspiration, as a goal, as an ideal. Kevalam Gnanamurtim. The one who is complete embodiment of knowledge. Gnanamurtim. We don't know what knowledge is also fully. Okay, we might claim, but it is something that we keep calibrating again and again to understand, and it keeps expanding probably. And but something that is moving from the space of ignorance into the space of knowledge. But Gagana Sadrusham, this is a good, helpful descriptor. Now we have something to, a metaphor has been shared for the first time here in this shloka. We are describing Guru and the Guru Tattva as the one who has the gaze like that of sky. Gagana Sadrisham. The one who is looking upon you, the one who is looking, or one whose look is like that of a sky. Sky is absolutely neutral. The clouds come and go, the sun traverses across it, and storms brew, in it. The clouds collide, the lightning and the jolts and the bolts, everything happens there infinitely, yet it is neutral. Whatever it manifests, be it the sunshine that it gives space to, be it the raindrops or the rain that comes from it, or be it even the thunder or the storm, it doesn't decide that I like this set of people, I'm going to give them the rain and not to these set of trees. It is impossible for this level of neutrality to choose anything. It is available all the time for everyone, right? This is the Gagana Sadrusham. So Guru is the one who doesn't discriminate between this is my favorite student and this is not. There is no bias. So we are in a way talking about an unbiased state by talking about Gagana Sadrusham. Tattva Mityadi Laksham, the one who gives us the knowledge about the Tattva. And like this the description goes. So this sense of neutrality, this aspect comes to the Akasha Tattva. And before entering and sharing more and more about thoughts about Sri Aurobindo, I wanted to share a little bit of story about myself entering into Sri Aurobindo's realm. When I first came across Sri Aurobindo's photograph was in Jayanagar. There is, in JP Nagar in Bangalore, there is ashram, Sri Aurobindo ashram. So I was studying, I was doing my postgraduate course. So I went there and I had to go there because before that, I moved from Hyderabad to Bangalore for my postgraduate studies when my father had a good book collection. So I thought I should take some, by then I was already high on Swami Vivekananda and all that. So I was reading Swami Vivekananda. And so reading Swami Vivekananda always sets you up. Usually when children are born, immediately we get vaccinated, we get booster doses and all of that, right? Swami Vivekananda is like that. If we do not have this booster dose, if we do not have this immunization, and then we enter usually especially the schooling system, when we enter, you will definitely come out on the other side deracinated completely. There is no escape. It has to be a God level person, to not get affected by it because it's so well designed for deracination. And the dumbing down of critical thinking, the templatization, like manufacturing and production primarily, we are part of it. So, and what we come out is not only deracination, we come out with great deal of inferiority complex about our own culture and root, primarily. Inevitable. So, best booster dose immunization is Swami Vivekananda. So I had an opportunity, I was lucky enough to grab his works very early, which sets forth a sense of at least self-confidence, assertiveness, and being able to know who you are and how you can place yourself when you are coming, especially from such an ancient civilization and culture. It is one thing to keep using these words, we are ancient civilization, culture, ancient civilization and culture, keep repeating this. Unless you experience an adverse antagonistic force which is confronting you, exactly because you are ancient and ancient civilization, you would not know how much it is a threshold of burden that you are carrying as a youngster. This we do not know. It is one thing to keep telling ourselves, oh, we are ancient and ancient civilization. Another thing, ancient civilization means a lot has happened in that. Which other cultures, which other civilizations might have gone through ups and downs, we are carrying it compounded, good and bad. This burden is there. So how do you lift the weight of that burden? That means you need to have strong shoulders. Swami Vivekananda. Strength and not weakness. Life and expansion, not contraction and death. This gives, like as soon as you utter those sentences, you feel energy is flowing through your system, in a way. So first always get booster dose. immunization, ensure your vaccination is in place, right? Then you will go long distance for this. And this comes even more blatant for me, it becomes more and more I live in Bengal. And more I see, this is where it is needed more. Because if you need a testimony for how a convoluted critical thinking can make you feel completely deprecated and weak, unfortunately, we have examples in abundance across the length and breadth of the Bharat, but even more concentrated in that region. Now, I picked valiantly a book called Essays on Gita when I was going for my postgraduate studies. I said, and then I read there who has written it, Sri Aurobindo. Now, except for the phrase Bande Mataram, I didn't know anything more about Sri Aurobindo. So I just said, okay, I'm going to take it. And I started reading few lines into it, and I obviously didn't understand anything. But why I took it is because my father wrote an aphorism by Swami Vivekananda on that book, which said, roughly it said that in order to read Gita, you need to have steely veins that where the blood courses through your veins, or something like that. The usual Swami Vivekananda energetics came into that. And as soon as I read it, I said, okay, I'm going to read it. So that's what Swami Vivekananda does. See, just that small unassuming moment of inspiration, because Swami Vivekananda something, he doesn't just say something to hype your ego. He says and utters something in a way that you at the same time not only getting inspired, but you become acutely aware of what is lacking in you at the same time. So this he does. In one go, 2 birds hit. And then when I finally took Sri Aurobindo's book, and then I wrestled and wrestled, I used to read. Sometimes that was the easiest way of falling asleep, to read long sentences. And then I started doing something more interesting. Forget, you will not understand this anyhow. So what you are going to do is that I started counting the number of words that are there between 2 full stops. Okay, 35, 42, 51 was long sentences. Long. Like, why so much has to be said? Kept doing this and kept doing this. And then, one fine day, as if something started making sense. In a way, the lock was open from the other side. And when I read it, seems like I started understanding something in there. And it just started flowing. And that's when I understood, okay, you are getting closer to the one who conceptualized this book, and that's Sri Aurobindo. How do I know that? It is no miracle. I would read, then I would have a question obviously from what I have read. And the answer would be 2 pages down the lane. This is a clear, intimate rapture of reading, you understand. This happens even when you're reading your favorite books and fiction and all of that. Why that glues so well is because now you have become one with the Shakti of the book. So this was an evidence that I am somehow connecting now. I am thinking and I'm asking the right questions which are popping up in my head. If he has articulated about Maya and Vedanta in this particular way, then what would this be? And 2 pages, he would have probably picked that up. So that means this is a clear indication that the book is working and you are working with the book and you are becoming more and more intimately close. So this is the personal journey with Sri Aurobindo. But what this gave me eventually is I came across later on how Mother tells us how to read Sri Aurobindo. And she emphasizes this very same thing. And then she points at something very important. She says, Sri Aurobindo would take something and then he would go around it from many directions, many directions, repeatedly. He goes from, so he will take a particular topic, he will go from Vedanta side, then he can go from Sankhya side, then he can go from Yoga Darshana side, then he can bring it from, even Western philosophies and the rational thinking and the scientific and all possible dimensions he would go just to ensure the intellect is well-rounded. Okay? This well-roundedness is incorporated in our culture as parikrama. What we do when we go to a temple is nothing but trying to see that divinity and feel that divinity from all directions when we do the parikrama. This happens. And when you do it, especially in a place that is as brilliant effulgence like Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala, and you're walking around that mountain, again and again and again. It is like the truth out there, and you are taking so many different vantage points in looking at it. And recently, I met a very senior yoga therapist who comes from, T. Krishnamachari school. And in the conversation, I was having conversation with her, and then she said that how her yogacharya has, in this conversation, she is talking how her yogacharya has taught her how to do the pariksha. And she used this gesture. So I said, oh, pariksha means examining the patient from all sides. That is what needs to happen. So though the doctor is sitting, the Vaidya is sitting and holding your only nadi, but what they are trying to figure out is, they are trying to figure out all-sidedness of the assessment, of the systematic way of assessing what is happening with your health. This is pariksha, parikrama. You see how beautifully our Sanskrit visualization gives you an idea. That's when I understood Sri Aurobindo does parikrama of every single point, full completion. That is how one gets to understand Sri Aurobindo's readings. Now, but who is Sri Aurobindo? He himself is a Himalayan peak. So we need to learn how to do parikrama around him. This is what matters the most. Occult, there. Tantra, there. Yoga, there. Literature, here it is. Assessment and criticism and critical thinking about rationality and its limited, here it is. Beauty about Shakespearean thought, go for it. Vyasa and Valmiki, here it is. What not? Because he has done the parikrama of the Bharatiya Gnana Parampara completely. So he has taken, he has articulated, and he is going about. He is going about, and he is articulating, and he is articulating as he is going about. And those articulations have come to us in the form of these writings. So this is, you have to bear in your mind that you need to be, if you need to be like fully nourished and enshrined in his works, you need to be patient, right? This aspect is extremely important to understand. He kind of transitions from being a revolutionary to an adventurer, in a way. If you would say that our yoga, this is his quote, our yoga is not a retreading of old walks, but a spiritual adventure. This is Sri Aurobindo's word. This can be said only by the person who has done actual treading, who knows the paths very well, after done the parikrama. So that's when he proposes this. He has done a complete parikrama of all the old paths. And then he uses, it's a spiritual adventure. It is so important that when we are approaching Sri Aurobindo to understand, we are also at the same time looking at this great spiritual cosmos and an explorer and adventurer in it. That is Sri Aurobindo. So therefore, if you say that, oh, you said this but that time, of course, I looked at it when I was traversing, I was at that point. How can you say it now here? But I am looking at it from here. So this is very much possible. And when we look at Sri Aurobindo as that great Himalayan peak, then you understand the vastness of the sky. See, you will never get hit by the vastness of the sky unless you see something which is huge and it is standing with the sky as the backdrop. This is what gives you a sense of awe when you see a towering skyscraper, for instance. But even more beautiful, when you go to high altitude regions and when you see in Himalayas, the awe is not just because of the height of the peak. The awe is because also of the umbrella and the vastness of the sky that is enveloping it. Right? Digambara, that is sky clad, when we say. This is what brings you a sense of awe. This is the sky. And Sri Aurobindo is like sky, always holding mysteriously that which needs to be given, because sky is the most mysterious of all. It has Chidakasha, it has Bhutakasha, it has Daharakasha, so many layers and layers of mysteries in there. Why is it mysterious? Is, for instance, if you take an example, if you see a sapling that is sprouting up from the soil, if I ask you, please tell me how the 4 elements or how the 5 elements have played their role in the growth of this sapling. Right? It's very evident to say that how the earth has helped. You have the roots and the soil and the nourishment within the soil, the rhizobes and the rhizobium and the microorganisms. The whole thing is working very, very actively. Earth, bhautika means work. Work, dynamism, activity, tilling, toiling, soiling, all of that is earth. You come to earth and say, I don't work. Then you are in the wrong place. Understand? So you have earth element contributing to the sprouting up of the sapling. Then if you were to say, obviously water, how it is playing its role, the rain, nourishment, and the water is playing its role. Fire element and the dynamism is there, and if you just go to the level of chlorophylls and the ATP synthesis and all of that, and you would see the physiological systems that are running through its dynamism, and especially harnessing the solar light and how the fire is being invoked in the process of the creation, you would see that fire has played a tremendous role. And the wind has inevitably played a great role in terms of its pollination and nourishment and bringing the winds and the favorable seasons and the clouds and all of that. But when you ask, how did Akasha contribute? Difficult to say. How did Akasha contribute to the growth of the sapling? How did this happen? Can you point out? It's difficult to say. Because Akasha is just like a plenum, which is holding all other 4 elements to play their dynamics in it. So the holding space is called Akasha. If Akasha is not there, then it's not being held. Your play of life is not being held. You understand? So when we approach Sri Aurobindo, you need to understand he is the Akasha. He is allowing your ideas and inspirations and intuitions to play along. So, and Akasha, if it needs to allow you to play, it cannot be just a neutral holding space. It has a certain principles, invisible principles in which it will move your energies in that. It will allow for the right admixture, right things to come together. And that is what Akasha does. So Sri Aurobindo's thoughts are so vast, and what is usually called in nowadays thing called meta. Right? When we say it's meta thinking and meta process, what he has is that, exactly that vastness, which allows for all your ideas and everything to come together. So this is nothing but the expansion of buddhi. This is the most important aspect when we are entering into reading Sri Aurobindo and contemplating Sri Aurobindo. Why Sri Aurobindo becomes extremely important, especially after when Swami Vivekananda gives you the booster dose and immunization, is because he was sitting in the edge of the turn of the 20th century, where the attack on Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma or Dharmic view was acute. And all our yogis were nothing but the snake charmers on the street, doing some frivolous miracles. And we are obsessed with uncleanliness, whatever, unhygiene, or our manifestation, and we were low on the tide of Shakti, to put it in a nutshell. So at that point in time, to bring a rational thought, to show the rationality behind our spiritual thought process is something extremely pivotal, which is what Sri Aurobindo does abundantly. Now, I'm not going to give an example of Sri Aurobindo, how he does it, but if you read Sri Aurobindo, I am trying to correlate how your mind can expand, and this potential of insight, correlation, intuitive thinking can transpire in your own being as your personal experience. This was my personal experience. After reading him for several years, then I was learning yoga. And suddenly my yoga teacher was teaching me Panchabhuta Pranayama. Right? Some of you, whoever is familiar with it. In the Panchabhuta Pranayama, you see, when you do the earth pranayama, earth or bhumi, prithvi pranayama. I don't know how many of, but you do exhalation and inhalation through mouth. Right? Exhale through mouth. Right? Inhale and exhale. Okay? You don't have to do it, I'm just simply telling. So inhale, mouth, water, Jala Tattva, usually is also taken through Sheetal Pranayama, right? Inhale through mouth, exhale through nose. Then you have fire, Agni, where inhale and exhale through mouth and nose. Exhale through mouth and nose. Then you have Vayu, inhale through nose, exhale through mouth. Then you have Akasha, inhale through nose, exhale through nose. This is so beautiful. If you actually look at it, your primary or primordial breathing mechanism was mouth, which is what happens even in the early form of creatures, in the life forms, which is more like osmosis or some sort of a primordial way of doing the breathing and the intake. And then gradually you see that in the Prithvi Pranayama there is no nose, no nasal pathway yet that has emerged. But as soon as you go to the Jala Tattva, for the first time nasal pathway appears. But for what? For a secondary function, let's say exhalation, not for inhalation. As you go to the fire, the nasal pathway gets integrated along with the oral pathway for the first time for inhalation purpose. So the transition is not jumping. First it is getting integrated with the base. And then when you move to the Vayu Tattva, you are transitioning the first primary function of inhalation through nose and exhalation through mouth. The mouth has been pushed as a secondary thing instead of the primary. And then you move to Akasha Tattva, mouth is out. Now you take this, all your lower order systems, which are excretory, reproductive, and all of that, get affected strongly with your earth breathing. If your digestive problems, reproductive problems, expulsion, issues are there, earth breathing can affect this system very well. If you have the related issues with Jala or the digestion, you can use the Jala Tattva and the fire. As you move more towards the circulatory aspect, which is what the heart and the cardiac system is, you move towards the Vayu, circulation. And then you go more into the neural and the cerebral sphere and the limbic systems, you have the Akasha Tattva. Understand? Now, this is something, it must be there. It must be there, I'm sure, as an intelligence. But when I was doing yoga, I came across this observation. When I shared it with my guru, then he said, very good, your insight is improving. Your intuitive sense or observation is improving. And for me, the correlation was reading Sri Aurobindo. Because what Sri Aurobindo's reading does is it keeps expanding your thinking process, buddhi, chitta, and all of this, and then things start appearing to you, which seem like otherwise not so obvious. So this is the expansion of the buddhi. But what this also demonstrates clearly is the profundity with which the yogic sciences have been already founded on. It is not random. So therefore, you go to the grammar or you go to any other shastra, you will find its rationality very much intact. Nothing is just random out there. For this, you need to have an acharya who can show you the principles of its functioning. This is how it works. So my endorsement very strongly, therefore, for all of you, is that if you are somebody plunging into the yogic sciences, taking a jump into developing a very strong inner life, you can do so. And for that, buddhi is not an impediment. Buddhi is a support. It can expand, it can inform, it can get you closer to the intuitive spaces, more and more to the intuitive spaces. Right. Next is thoughts. If you observe, we are spending most of the time in the realm of buddhi. Okay, I am not spending anywhere else. I wanted to somehow emphasize on these aspects. Sri Aurobindo talks about thoughts, and one of the most pertinent points which he has emphasized substantially is that thoughts, you are not the creator of thoughts. Thoughts come to you. And this is tremendously liberating. One thing is that we get attached to the thoughts as if I am the one who is generating it, and that's where the whole burden is most of the time. You understand? But he liberates you from that aspect. And how to think, or what is the thinking process? I will just try to spend a little on one of his passages, which is from the Letters on Yoga. He's talking about it. That is the silliness of the mind. Why should it be impossible to fill up a vacancy? It is easier for things to come into an empty space than into a full one. He's talking about thoughts, how they are entering the mind. The error comes from thinking that your thoughts are your own and that you are their maker, and if you don't create thoughts, there will be none. It's very experiential. If you just sit and observe that even if you are not so-called creating the thoughts, there are many out there. So he's giving you an insight into the nature of the thought realm itself, as if like some station you have to tune into. The error comes from thinking that if you don't create thoughts, there will be none. A little observation ought to show that you are not manufacturing your own thoughts, but rather thoughts occur in you. Thoughts are born, not made. They are born like poets. According to the proverb, they are born like the poets. Of course, there is a sort of, now this looks like an unassuming statement, but a very important one. He says, of course, there is a sort of labor and effort when you try to produce or else to think on a certain subject. But that is concentration for making thoughts come up, come in, come down, as the case may be, and fit themselves together. Now he has introduced the word concentration. He says what's happening is there are thoughts. If you concentrate, then they, as if they fall into a discipline and come in a particular way. So there is a concentrated way of thinking. This is very difficult nowadays. If we ask people to give some subject an idea and ask them to think about it, everywhere. Thinking process is everywhere. How do you concentrate? Concentrate itself says that concentrate, bring things together. Bring things together. And what is this bringing things together and bringing concentration together so that thoughts, it is as if as if you are sitting randomly, thoughts are everywhere, and a moment of concentration, they start streaming in a particular disciplined way. As if you are signaling with your will of concentration, now you fall in the line. You understand? So there is a reciprocation to your effort of concentration. As soon as you are concentrated, there is a discipline in the thought realm. That is what is happening. Concentration in our worldview means tapas. As simple as that. With tapas, you can achieve this. And therefore, Sri Aurobindo says, it is not for weak-minded to sit with the thoughts, to generate knowledge, to produce knowledge, or to create anything. It is not for them. It is only for the dhira. He uses this word. So in order to think and not to be restless, you got to be dhira. It's easy to get restless. All that you need is a weak mooladhar. You will be moving, swinging. When things are boring and not aligning, your mind strays away. What it means is you do not know how to sit now. Be with what is happening. That is just nothing but example of a weak mooladhar. If mooladhar is not strong, you cannot think properly. It seems very interesting. It's a completely an unconscious realm, but this is how your unconsciousness impacts a conscious process of thinking. And who is there sitting in mooladhar? Mooladhara sthitosi nityam. Ganapati. Ganapati is who? Buddhi. Buddhi mata. Buddhi, the one who is aspecting the Buddhi, is Ganapati. Where is he sitting? He is in mooladhar. If he is not sitting there, your mooladhar is like heavy samsara, the tides on which you are like a endless tides, you are moving like a cork which is aimless on the ocean. As soon as you have the weight of Ganapati comes in, you drop an anchor and you have the weight coming in. So Ganapati traverses all the way from here, the Mooladhar, right up to the Vishuddhi, what Sri Aurobindo would call the unconscious, inconscious, subconscious, to the vital, traverses all the way to the dynamism, action of dynamism of the vital and the emotional planes, to the intellectual and the intelligence, to the intuition level. Ganapati traverses all the way. So that is how as a culture we started worshipping him first. First worship him so that there is right buddhi in whatever endeavor you are taking up. If right buddhi is not there, then there is a problem for the rest of the endeavor. Right? So here he is emphasizing on the power of concentration. And this aspect of Sri Aurobindo, talking about concentration and you being vigilant with what is happening in your thought process, and your heart being open to the receptivity and opening to the divine force. These are the three forces which are essential for your yoga as part of this. So being grounded, being in the thoughtful, in having the power of thought, power of buddhi, well-organized intellect, well-organized power of intellect and discernment, viveka, vichakshana, is of utmost importance. And therefore, Sri Aurobindo never gives away the predominance of this in propounding his yoga. And he says, to this, the other aspects of your emotion, your instinct and your impulse and your desire should be subordinated, because it can organize where they need to be in your system. That is predominantly the one. So if I were to exhort you in the journey of you plunging into reading Sri Aurobindo, it might not have the titillations of talking about your trauma, grief, because so far the talk did not have all of this. You understand, there is no trauma, grief, what happens because of this? Because Aurobindo knows the nature of the darkness is the more you meditate on it, more it enters you. And unfortunately, most part of the contemporary psychology, the modern psychology, is euphemistic articulation of the darkness. You can do so. You can do the analysis of the darkness in as many ways as possible, provided you have the equal ability to show the light to the darkness. But you don't have this and you have only this, you will come out tremendously depressed. What will you do understanding so much about pathology? There has to be equal amount of articulation and insight into harmony. If not equal, it has to be greater in measure. If you are not well equipped with your insights into harmony, what is it? And then you plunge yourself into the darkness, you are left to the beast completely, unguarded. And this is something I would conclude with this particular, I always tell this favorite story of mine of Ganpati. Because not only we start with Ganpati, we can end with Ganpati also. That beautiful story when he has eaten fully, filled up his stomach. Okay, he's eating. What does this eating so much mean? That when does he realize that he has overeaten? Only when he is about to get up. Listen, oh my God, लगता है थोड़ा वजन ज़्यादा हो गया. Okay, looks like. What does this indicate? It indicates nature of unconsciousness. Your action, when it is unconscious, you are not aware how much you can eat, how much you are eating. This is nothing but the Ganapati is so beautiful as a deity that he has adorned all our unconscious deficiencies into his iconography, by the way. When you contemplate, we will explore that. Yet he is divine. And he helps us exactly deal with them in us. Right? So here is Ganpati, figuring out right exactly at the moment when he is about to get up. I think I have eaten a lot. What comes immediately after that is, this is an indication of unconscious way of eating. This is happening in our life all the time. Unconscious way of consuming, including Instagrams, right swipes, left swipes, Tinders, whole bunch of other things, stalking profiles, and all of that. And it's like you're going unconscious. Are you like fully conscious when you're trying to chase somebody and figuring out whether they are active on WhatsApp or not after sending some kind of a very difficult messages? No. It's like complete unconscious. It's like impulsive act. What is unconscious? Unconscious means where your willpower has very little to do anything. You cannot exert your willpower. For example, you have a nightmare. In the nightmare, a beast is attacking you. And the very beast, when it is attacking you, you are completely scared to death for your life. But you know very well that there is a door onto your left side. But your legs still don't move. Because you are in a realm where you are not exerting your willpower. You cannot exert your willpower. But whether you still have your identity? Yes. So therefore there is still fear. This is the realm of unconscious. This is the realm of fear. And you want to take that left door, left exit. You cannot take it because there is no exertion of the willpower. This is unconscious. So Ganpati has eaten unconsciously. And then when he is about to get up, he feels that sense of shame. Understand? Sense of shame. Oh my God. Hope nobody sees me when I'm getting up. There is that small trace of that shame that comes. Again, where shame is hidden? Mooladhara. Where unconscious consumption is hidden, or consumption of unconscious or unconscious is Mooladhara. Who is Mooladhara Sthitosi Nityam? Ganapati. And then with this shame, he is about to get up and then he loses his balance. Boom. And then he finally falls. At that moment is the hyper, kind of it's amplification of shame. Oh my God, nobody should see me. What has happened? And then immediately he is checking, if anyone. What is the act of shame? Is nothing but exerting every ounce of your power to conceal something that you do not want to reveal, that you are ashamed of revealing. You don't want this to be seen. This attribute is again in Mooladhara. You take that, and Sri Aurobindo's words, they're beautiful descriptions of inconscience, unconscious, subconsciousness. All of this comes in. And therefore you would see many times the story of Ganapati appearing to mother at the right time. It is in this realm the most powerful material treasures are hidden. Right? So if you need the material prosperity, it is these locks have to be opened, and Ganapati can open it for you. Or any presiding force, which you have Nagas there, you have Yakshas there, you have, and Ganapati is there. So basically this is the treasure trove for the material wealth. This also means the nature of the material wealth is always surrounded by unconscious force. You might like to have money, but with it comes the power of the unconscious. You don't know whether you have it or whether money has you. This is the turns that happens of the unconscious. You understand? And then when he is getting up, finally somebody sees him and laughs at him. Who is it? Chandra, moon, right? Chandra is connected to Manas. Manas is moon. Manas in all Puranas, or Chandra in all Puranas, never gets an easy treatment. He is shown as a playboy, flaunting all the time with 27 stars, extremely flamboyant. All the time, he is arrogant in a way. Because the one who is constantly indulged in indriyas and having bhoga and indulgence feels I am very smart, a bit of that comes into the picture. That is Chandra. One who feels flamboyant and one who is overconfident about one's own looks and looking too smart and to this, obviously to him Ganapati would look a bit, who is this who has fallen, who has eaten and fallen this way. Understand? Look at the interplay. And then Chandra gets cursed. If you are higher in power than me, can I curse you? My curse will not work. Power dynamics. Only high can curse the low. Only pure can curse the impure. Therefore, you have all the great curses from Anasuya or anyone else coming because of their chastity and the purity and the piousness. Understand? But here Ganapati is cursing Chandra. That means what is higher than Manas? Buddhi. In your Antakarana matrix. You understand? So Mano Buddhi Chitta Ahankara, the Buddhi is the topmost. It's the counsel even to the Ahankara, supposed to be. Which we discussed so far, what we have discussed about Sri Aurobindo's, the aspect of the Buddhi, is to highlight to you how the Buddhi has to be expansive, vast, neutral, not driven by sentimentalism, not driven by emotionalism, not driven by hubris of subjectivity. There has to be a certain objectiveness that is demanded of this nature. So that is Ganapati, who can curse even Chandra. So usually what we do ritualistically, when Chandra is cursed or moon is cursed, we look at it astrologically. Moon is in trouble. Then we tell, you know what? Go and do Shivalinga Abhisheka. Because Shiva is who? Gnana, not even Buddhi. Gnana. Gnana is like Bap of all. You understand? It's like Buddhi, Mano Buddhi, everybody is just moving towards Gnana. And when Shiva is Gnana, how is Shiva represented with Gnana? By his jata. Why is his Jeta representation symbolism of Gnana? Because he holds the Gnana Pravaha of Ganga. If you are not a Dhira and have the ability to hold the inspirations, intuitions, analysis, thoughts, and the deluge of thoughts and analysis that is coming to you and channel them in a very systematic way, if you are not a Dhira, you don't have that Swabhava of a Gnani. Shiva is not only the Dhira of Gnana who can tie the whole Ganga up in his mat. Why he can do that is because he is a yogi. He is in the yoga sthiti. Therefore, he puts manas as a ornamentation on his. And when your manas is problematic, you just go and do Shivalinga Abhishek. What you are doing Shivalinga Abhisheka with? Jala. Jala is equal to manas. Manas and moon. Look at the beauty of the architecture of ritual. You understand? Nothing is irrational. In the Sanatana Dharmic fold in the view, everything has its place. Now, how somebody could create such a cohesive and tremendously beautiful system in place for this? That means they are very dhiras of knowledge. You understand how they have done it? This is the strength of intuition. So here is an example. That's why I always share Ganapati's story, because in Ganapati, you have shame, you have hesitation, you have overconsumption, everything located, and then. So you have entered into a story like this and came out with this kind of an abundant insights about your unconscious, about your subconscious, about intelligence, about intuition, about buddhi, about manas, everything. As opposed to you take all of this and just directly plunge into psychoanalytics. And now you talk about power of unconscious being so powerful. And you are only told that you have your trauma located there. And you are also added to that told you have to do work in order to overcome that. The whole burden is on you to figure it out after getting very good counseling. You understand? Therefore, in our system was never a uni-counselor system. It was a multi-counselor system. You had parents to counsel, elders to counsel, gurus to counsel, acharyas to counsel, rishis to counsel. Your Vaidya was a counselor. Your astrologer was a counselor. And your Purohit was a counselor. Each of them knew not only you, your intergenerationality in the architecture of your being, what constitutes now, who is sitting in front of us. So we have snapped everything, and we are saying, and now we are looking at the therapists and expecting them to become all of them. What a heavy task for a therapist to lift. And somebody is lifting it with overconfidence, saying that I will figure it out. It is not very prudent, isn't it? It's very evident, this kind of a thing. Now that is the reason many therapists are coming to us, saying that, oh, there seems to be a lot of, because the culture inherently has wisdom in it, is being articulated. Now, unless things go to West and bounce back to us, we do not have this tendency to recognize who we are. So we are always like the Hanumans in the forgetfulness state, waiting for the Jambavans to come and tell us. Perpetually. You understand? If you want to overcome this, Sri Aurobindo. Booster dose, Swami Vivekananda. Then Sri Aurobindo, right? So now all of this, just concluding remark, seems extremely complex, extremely tantamounting task for you, but so it need not be. Why? Because there is a spark of the divine right in the caverns of your deepest caverns of your heart, which Sri Aurobindo called it psychic being, Chaitya Purusha. That this spiritual fervor in you has the ability to have a complete conversion of your being to turn towards the divine. All that you need to do is to have the sense of openness and aspiration, looking at the divine to receive that which needs to come to your heart. So keep this in mind, and this is the space. And I must say, in a way, significantly, that when 1914, when Mother finally arrived into Pondicherry, and you read Sri Aurobindo's writings, you would see significant amount of his initial writings would be in Sapta Chatushtaya. There is a whole program that he writes about how to transform the being integrally and all of that. And there is a certain psychological bent it takes. And Mother comes, and the spiritual collaboration manifests, and then you would see the arrival of psychic being on the scene of integral yoga. Because she is the greatest example of how to receive the divine force and manifest it. And that's why Sri Aurobindo said, you have to come and collaborate. You can never look at them in isolation, in solo, in silos. No. That is the complete picture. They look two, but that's one. This is extremely important to keep in mind. So with that, I conclude. Maybe few minutes of your questions, if time permits, and then Joy Guru. Yeah. 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 ये काफ़ी बहुत ही विशाल प्रश्न है, क्योंकि उन्होंने काफ़ी परिचय दिया है अपने राइटिंग्स में, लाइफ डिवाइन में खास करके उन्होंने स्पेंड किया है समय। तो मैं आपको ड्यू टू पॉसिटी ऑफ टाइम मैं आपको रिकमेंड करूँगा कि आप लाइफ डिवाइन में पढ़िए, उसमें काफ़ी एग्जॉस्टिवली एड्रेस किया है. बट द थिंग इज़, I won't say that he is calling आदि शंकराचार्य इल्यूजनिस्ट. वो मायावाद के ही सीमित है ऐसा नहीं कहा है श्री अरविंदो ने. हालांकि श्री आदि शंकरा के पद में जो बात में आए हैं, काफ़ी समय तक मायावाद का जगत मिथ्या है और असत्य है और परम सत्य ही सत्य है, ऐसा एक बाइफर्केशन, ऐसा एक शिज़म आया था. उस पे उन्होंने काफ़ी व्याख्या की है कि ऐसा सोच विचार जो है क्यों ये पूर्ण नहीं है, क्योंकि श्री अरविंदो तो पूर्ण योग की बात कर रहे हैं, इतना तो उन्होंने कहा है. पर उनके स्वयं आदि शंकराचार्य के विश्लेषण में उनको ऐसा सीमित नहीं करते हैं, क्योंकि आदि शंकराचार्य का जो विश्लेषण आत्म तत्व का है वो काफ़ी अद्भुत है. उसमें सब कुछ समाया जाता है, वो सच्चिदानंद को ही मानते हैं. और वो ये भी हाईलाइट करते हैं कि आदि शंकराचार्य ने ही बहुत सारे प्रक्रिया, जैसे कि चाहे स्तोत्र पठन हो या सौंदर्य लहरी हो, ऐसे बहुत सारे विश्लेषण किए जहाँ की शक्ति की उन्होंने आराधना की है. तो ये ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता है कि वो केवल मिथ्य से जुड़े हुए हैं. और जैसे कि श्री अरविंदो इतना विस्तार है और उनमें से हम उनके विस्तारता में हम क्या चूज़ करके प्रेजेंट करेंगे. मैं नेशनलिस्ट हूँ तो मैं कुछ हिंदुत्व का जो मुझे अच्छा लगता है वो निकालूंगा उसमें से, बाकी का मैं बोलूँगा. पर अरविंदो ने बोला है भैया आपका चैत्य पुरुष और साइकिक बीइंग को ओपन करके ट्रांसफॉर्म करना, नहीं ये वाला हजम नहीं हो रहा है मुझे, तो मैं ये लूँगा, ये थोड़ा साइड कर दूँगा. ठीक है. ये सेलेक्टिव जो पिकिंग वाला जो बात है, वो कोई और बोलता है कि पूरा ही ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है, हमें बाह्य प्रपंच से कुछ लेना देना है ही नहीं है तो हम कट करेंगे. भाई साहब आपके चारों ओर फैल रहा है ये जाल, तो आपका तैयारी क्या है इस योग में रह के, कि आपकी विचक्षणा क्या है, आपका क्षत्र तेजस क्या है, जो कि श्री अरविंदो का ही फ्रेज है जो यूज़ करते हैं, क्षत्र तेजस, जो भी श्री अरविंदो बात करते हैं. वो सप्त चतुष्टय में आप देखेंगे तो वो मेंशन करते हैं इस चीज़ को लेके. तो मैं ये एग्जाम्पल इसीलिए दिया हूँ कि यही प्रक्रिया आदि शंकराचार्य जी के उनके प्रक्रिया में भी हुआ है। उन्होंने काफ़ी सारे चीज़ विस्तारता से बोली है, तंत्र के बारे में बोला है, बहुत सारा तंत्र का विश्लेषण किया है, आगम का विश्लेषण किया है, उन्होंने पूजा पद्धति या विधि भी दिया है। अब उसको आप मिथ्य प्रपंच के साथ और मिथ्य के साथ कैसे जोड़ेंगे? तो इसलिए एक सेलेक्टिव एम्फोसिस के वजह से हमें ज़्यादा इल्यूजनिस्ट लगा, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। अब मैं तो उस परंपरा से नहीं हूँ, तो ऑब्वियसली मेरा मानना उतना ही मूल्य नहीं रखेगा उस चीज़ को लेके, पर ये मैं जब थोड़ा देखता हूँ तो मुझे लगता है कि ये है बात। पर आप लाइफ डिवाइन में विस्तारता से इस पर विश्लेषण हुआ है।
बहुत धन्यवाद
जी।
Pranam Swami ji. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. I have two questions. The first is that Swamiji, you mentioned that it is only for the Dhira who can actually witness and face their thoughts. So how can we become Dhira in our life? And the second question is, most of us here are yet to dive into the writings of Sri Aurobindo, though all of his writings are fascinating. But if you can suggest 3 books with which we can start.
I always recommend essays on Gita for one reason, because he has not yet fully introduced us to his new vocabulary world. Sri Aurobindo, see why it's so difficult. Many traditionalists also have problem with Sri Aurobindo, by the way, and I come from quite a few traditionalist sampradayas in my practice. So how I benefit from Sri Aurobindo, continue to benefit from Sri Aurobindo, is a totally different matter. That why I get inspired, because his insights are just so deep rooted. For this he had to not just propose पूर्ण योग ना, पूर्ण योग के लिए मेटाफिजिक्स चाहिए, लाइफ डिवाइन है, योग प्रक्रिया चाहिए, सिंथेसिस ऑफ योगा है। पूर्ण योग का ब्यूटीफुल एक्सप्रेशन, एस्थेटिक एक्सप्रेशन चाहिए, सावित्री है। सावित्री केवल एस्थेटिक एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ पोएट्री नहीं है, वो मांत्रिक है। आप कुछ हद तक सावित्री पढ़ते जाएंगे गहराई से, आप दूसरे सावित्री की दुनिया में चले जाएंगे, और वहाँ पे जो बात करते हैं वो सबकॉन्शियस की। इस सबकॉन्शियस रास्ते में कैसे चलना है साधक को बताया जाता है। ऐसे नहीं चलना है कि तुम धीरा बन के चल रहे हो, यहाँ पे तुम सबको ठोक डालोगे, ऐसा थोड़ी हो सकता है। तुम्हारे में तो वो शक्ति नहीं है, क्योंकि विल पावर नहीं आ सकता है। विल पावर आने का मतलब है इंटेलिजेंस पहुँचना है। इंटेलिजेंस सबकॉन्शियस में नहीं पहुँच सकता है, अगर पहुँच ही जाएगा तो वो सबकॉन्शियस रहेगा ही नहीं, सीधी सी बात है। तो कैसे चलना है? ऐसे चलना है जैसे कि बहुत स्टॉर्म और साइक्लोन चल रहा है यहाँ पे, तो रुक रुक के चलना है, कदम सोच सोच के रखना है, हल्का सा पैर लगा के चल। ये भी तो धीरा ही है। धीर का मतलब केवल ये बात नहीं कि मैंने छाती खड़ा कर लिया और बोला कि तुम आके मुझे ना। धीरा मतलब जिसमें समन्वय भाव है, जिसमें समाहित है वो एक स्थिति में जहाँ पे वो ठहराव में है, जल्दबाजी नहीं है। खा रहे हैं तो एक 20-30 बार और चबाने की क्षमता है उसमें, ऐसे ही गल्प करके जल्दी निकल के 2 मिनट का मैगी खा के निकलने की बात नहीं हो रही है यहाँ पे, है ना। तो ये स्थिरता और ये संयम भाव जो है, ये कैसे ले आ सके, यही धीरत्व की बात होती है, वो कहते हैं। और क्या पूछा? और कुछ पूछा आपने? हाँ, एसेज ऑन गीता। एसेज ऑन गीता में उन्होंने अपना पूरा ही पूर्ण योग का इंट्रोडक्शन जो है, पूरे वोकैबुलरी को इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं किया है। सो दैट इज़ डेफिनेट वन ऑफ द बेस्ट ऑलवेज इज लेटर्स ऑन योगा, बिकॉज दैट रियली बिकम्स लाइक गाइडिंग लाइट फॉर लाइक डे टू डे प्रैक्टिकल थिंग्स। मुझे बहुत, आई एम सिटिंग फॉर मेडिटेशन, आई एम बीइंग फ्लडेड बाय थॉट्स, हियर देयर इज फैंटास्टिक डिस्क्रिप्शन, बट without understanding his architecture of his consciousness, the way he has described the ontology. So what I said, why it is Purna, is that he has done metaphysics work, he has done psychology work. What Sankhya has done, so he had to bring vital material and all of that and then establish the, and therefore at one point he calls Purna Yoga, yoga is nothing but practical psychology. He says that. So metaphysics, life divine. Creative and aesthetic and also mantric way of expression, Savitri. And then you have the synthesis of yoga, which gives you insight into how he chose from different yogas what. For instance, bhakti parampara se. So Vaishnava Bhakti mein he appreciates everything, and he says, but what I think most pertinent for my integral yoga, the vision that has been given to me is ahaituki bhava, where there is motiveless devotion, where there is no causation for your devotion, there is no transactionality. That is how you need to surrender to the divine. Ahaituki bhava. This is what Sri Aurobindo says. So he is expanding on synthesis of yoga, what he is taking from various yogas. So this is, and then I would say synthesis of yoga, because I am trying to bring you from the zone of familiarity and transition gradually into Sri Aurobindo. So you will start with essays on Gita. Gita is the most popular, it's our breath. And then we get into synthesis of yoga, where he is examining all of yogas of Hatha Yoga, Tantra, everything. So more yogic. And then you are finally getting into, gradually you have to move into life divine, which is what it is. And then Savitri. This is the trajectory that I usually recommend. Yeah.
हरिओम स्वामी जी, मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि जैसा आपने बताया कि मूलधारा चक्र है, उसको लॉर्ड गणेशा रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, और वो बुद्धि को भी रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं और ओवर कंजम्पशन को भी रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. तो मतलब जैसे जिसके पास बुद्धि है, विवेक है, राइट रॉन्ग का डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी पावर है, तो वो तो ओवर कंजम्पशन से कैसे रिलेटेड है? बिकॉज बुद्धि से ही हमें पता चलेगा कि ओके हम ओवर कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं और हम एक जगह पे स्टॉप करेंगे, लाइक कॉन्शियसली लिविंग कॉन्शियसली, वो बुद्धि से ही हो पाएगी ना?
Very good question. This actually reveals to you the thinking behind iconography. Iconography is not here to be consistent with logic. ये है तो क्यों ये तो नहीं हो सकता है, ऐसा नहीं है. Logic is different from rationality. You understand? Rationality means there has to be a complete over. So iconography should have, आपने बोला है इसको बुद्धि है तो वो ओवर कंजम्पशन का, मुझे भी तो थोड़ा बहुत बुद्धि है पर मैं तो जाके मैगी खाऊंगा. Our natural state is not as puristic, you understand? Where we are saying if this is there, this cannot be there. Our natural state is very intermingling. This is also there, this is also there. So therefore in an iconographic representation, there can be certain deities which can have many opposite ideas reconciled into a single strata. So overconsumption is not only represented by his heaviness and his eating, overconsumption is also represented by the mice. You know, his vahan. It's always in the darkness. Light band karo to चूहा आ जाता है. And it is always associated with pestilence. It is always associated with pandemics. It is always associated with overconsumption. It is eating of something into you. You understand? So it's a very profound, that is what I'm saying. It's a bhayanak aspects have been integrated into iconography, but still you will not feel morose after going through this analysis. You will come jubilant out that I Ganpati Bappa hai mere saath. Unko prarthana karo. That is how the beautiful thing. You just take out all sacrality, imagery, symbolism, culture from it, and you directly enter into it with as a psychological analysis. You get beaten left, right, center in this. So that's why it is much needed. You can in fact call it integral in its own way when opposite aspects are reconciled beautifully and held together in a way. And where you say that his head has been taken out and Ganpati and the elephant is there, that has its own tremendous number of stories of intuition. Head taking out is intuition completely. And because you don't have your egotistic cerebral sphere working so hard, so you are open to the intuition. Now the thing is, oh, this looks like nice. I am very intuitive. No, it's just not that. Agna chakra ka jab khulta hai, and you do not have the right support system, you start seeing both dark as well as light. You start seeing beings which are not necessarily visible. And that becomes problematic in some cases. It's quite widely experienced by people. I'm seeing all sorts of dark forces, but they cannot express this to anyone. That is also because this particular part is active, but you don't have the shock absorbers to hold it, the rest of it, in terms of it. This sort of. काफ़ी लोग क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे. I thought all of you slept actually when I was talking. As in, nothing was coming from that side.
So most of the young people I know around me are really suffering on a psychological level. So if not trauma and grief focused pathology of Western psychology, what spiritual traditions or practices that we can rely on to improve our well-being?
I'm not saying this no and this yes. All that I'm simply saying is this is how it is in their approach. Okay? So, even for instance, therapists who are there, I guide quite a few of them and I tell them, please pray before you enter into your counseling. Know that you are also not alone when you are entering into the psyche of someone else and you are opening up yourself to the psyche of someone else. Right? All that I'm saying is, I'm not saying no therapy. I'm just simply saying know how to rely on the higher force. This is enough in my view. Substantial. If, and more importantly, if you are from this culture, you can harness more from our cultural symbolism and the ideas which are embedded in it, not by virtue of this analytical conversation, by virtue of your daily practice. All that we do is we call Panchopchar Puja. We offer 5 elements to our deities. That itself you can go on talking for 2 days of unraveling, unpacking what it means. But it is just unassumingly taken for granted for us. So I'm not saying not this. I'm saying get grounded and rooted as much into this readings also. And then when you approach, let's say Western psychology or any other psychological approach, you are better equipped, culturally buffered, shock absorbers are in place, your filters are in place, power of discernment is in place, you have put the right things how to transmit. And there is nothing wrong in this. This happens all the time to yoga, by the way. They have, most of the Western countries have learned yoga from here and they have put their filters and they have taken it into it. No, you also put filter nicely to the psychology, therapy and all that. Actively put. You are expected to put.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for spending your auspicious time with us. So, mostly from the first day, I have been mostly observing things. The people here, the organizers, ma'am, and all of them, they live here. I mean, when there is something happening, though they are busy in their work, but when they are listening to something, they pay utmost concentration. And when you told effort and labor is concentration, and concentration is something I would want to know more about, because often you are talking with, you are a very clear thinker, and it's very rare that we meet clear thinkers like you. So in the world, when we go outside of Auroville, there are so many people coming with a lot of biases, and let's say I am thinking in such a way, this at the end would mess up with my system and I could not be concentrating on the thoughts which I want to do. So how do I hit on the same node of concentration so that I don't lose my crux and we all be concentrated and doing concentration? Work is concentration, spirituality is concentration, listening to you is concentration, and that's where you summed it up. So how did you find this concentration in your life, and how did all that happen?
So your question has 2 things. One is what will happen when we go back, how is it going to work, and what is concentration. So concentration part I will come to a bit. Your answer is in your question only. The way you described it, they are all thinking like this, they are all well grounded, but when we go, we meet all sorts of people. Then you meet these people also, no? Put in your yearly calendar, you come and spend 20 days here. It should be high priority. In the olden times, the guru or the wise thinker was round the corner in your gully.
Okay.
In Banaras is filled with that way. That's why we go to Banaras. Why it became like that? Because Banaras is filled with all wise people. Wise, wisdom everywhere.
True.
You understand? This used to be our culture. Now we got more and more distanced and isolated in that way. So wherever you find good people, good thinkers and all of that, cling to them. This is called satsanga in our, nothing more than that, nothing complicated. Luckily now we have podcasts also. Except don't go for this hyperventilated, spicy podcasts about all these things. And you understand very well what you mean by thinking. You know what you want.
Yes.
In the maze of podcasts, search for the right voice.
Yes.
You understand? So you need to cultivate your consumption
Okay.
and association.
Yes.
You understand? This is how you bring the constant inflow of clarity and thinking into your system. There is no two other ways. And keep coming to places like this and get rejuvenated, recharged from time to time. And Sri Aurobindo should reach more and more to the every sphere of your being. More permeation of his insight, more permeation of his love, and more grace of Mother. It should permeate you. And then you are held in a way. So that is my thing. Concentration, and one more thing is simple. It cannot be explained. You need to concentrate this way. Concentration is also something that you stumble upon. Because suddenly you get hooked to something in a way that you will not let go. Your contemplation on it. You are harnessing everything. आज तो मैं इसको resolve करके रखूँगा. कुछ भी हो जाए. यही concentration है. When you are so uninterruptedly harnessing all your diverse energies into one particular place and focusing them, suddenly you will see your pranic system harmonizes as if there is no breath going on in you. Just as if like a yogasana is going on anyway. That is a clear indication that tapa leads to samadhi. This is an indication, right? So that concentration happens. How does concentration happen? Simple, but most difficult. Concentration happens by not giving up. That is the only way out. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I will request, some of the writings that I do and my podcasts, and some of them are there. Not much, I don't do too many podcasts, but a little bit of writings are there. That please pass it on.
Hari Om sir, I have a question regarding, you were speaking about Panchabhuta Pranayama.
Yeah.
Physiological aspect.
Right.
So can you just repeat that for me?
Okay. Now I gave it as an example of the rationale behind how the system could have possibly developed, is that the earth breathing is inhalation and exhalation through mouth. Prithvi pranaya. Okay. Then the Jala Tattva breathing is inhalation through mouth and exhalation through nose. This is called Sheetal Pranayama. Sometimes when you do Sheetal Pranayama now, you will feel the moisture content very cold in your mouth. This is how camels survive in the desert. By retaining the moisture content through the mouth breathing. Understand? In a way. This is how our rishis have observed the nature and integrated it into pranayama. In a way. So profound that way. Then you move to the fire breathing. This Wim Hof technique, blah, 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 all these things that come right now. This has been going on. The Tantric Buddhists have done it, and they are sitting in obviously Tibetan Himalayas, and our Himalayan masters are sitting. They must have minimum figured out how to stay hot, if not like our notion of being hot. But they really know how to keep it hot. And either you do, one of the simplest is that you do this nadi, this is obviously the Surya, then you can keep the system very hot. Or you do the fire breathing of inhalation and exhalation through mouth parallelly. Inhale, mouth and nose. Exhale, mouth and nose. And then Vayu Tattva, inhale through nose for the first time, nose is coming to inhalation. And exhale through mouth. You understand? And then you go into the Akasha Tattva, inhalation through nose. Now wait. After this, there are many kriyas which breathe only from here to here in the length. You cannot even understand. There is something called, many kriyas are there. Only here. So it's gone more subtle. Not even inhale, exhale through. And then there are gatis and kriyas where you are not even breathing in and out. And one of my yogic teachers taught me, and after doing a practice wrong for a year, and this is Parvati Ma, and Sanatan Siddhashram, by the way, she is the founder of Sanatan Siddhashram, which is a Baul Akra, and it's a Yoga Bhakti Parampara. Do check out on her, Parvati Baul, and she visits Auroville quite often and whenever we visit together. And once she taught me, and then after a year of this practice, when I went to her, I said, I have been doing this. She said, you have been doing it wrong. For 1 year, wrong practice. Your dhira means you have to have ability to make mistakes for long periods of time. If you don't mistake for long periods of time, then you will not know the details of the mistake. If you are corrected immediately, your chances of repeating the mistake are very high. If you have paid a heavy price, then you are like, bye. It's okay. So after 1 year, I was corrected. And then she said, breathe like this. And she just took a conch and put it to my ear. And then she said, how is the conch breathing? It's just breathing like cosmos. There is no inhalation. Where can cosmos exhale or inhale? It is all internalized movement. Swayambhu, Swayam Siddha, Swayam Prakasha. So these are very, very advanced techniques of breathing, all of that. So this is the Panchabhuta Pranayama getting more and more subtle and subtle and subtle. So, yeah, does that answer your question primarily?
One more point you have mentioned about the circulation as well as chakra rise.
Yeah, I think they will share the video. So we will take it at that. Yeah.
Okay. Two more questions, quick ones. Ask the questions, both the questions first. And then
Sure. Pranam Guruji. Firstly, you talked about consciousness and subconsciousness. So where does the Sakshi Bhava lies in this? And secondly, Sri Aurobindo talked about Sanatan Dharma as nationalism. So where does the Hindutva, of that concept of Hindutva, falls within this framework? Thank you.
But masala. So, okay. The first one, well, let's go to the first one. We'll stick more to the first one. The other spicy topics, there are too many views out there. But it's a beautiful question, the first one. So, consciousness, subconsciousness, where is the witness, Sakshi Bhava? Because even in subconscious, even in your dreams and the nightmares, there is Sakshi. Who is witnessing? Somebody is witnessing. It is as if this is something that cannot be destroyed, the witness. They're all pervading in all levels of consciousness. As if even if you have fallen asleep and you are not aware, still the Sakshi Bhava is there in a way. That is going beyond the Swapnavastha also, and it is going into Shushupti even beyond that in a way. So that is the Sakshi. You waking up in the morning is nothing but as if you are becoming aware of the Sakshi Bhava. That itself is the awakening in a way. So Sakshi Bhava is not limited to the consciousness, in the spectrum of consciousness. Sakshi Bhava is all. And this, Sri Aurobindo brings one of the genius aspects in the yoga. In the yogic sphere, very little has been, I haven't at least come across somebody articulating this way. That's why he doesn't talk about just Purusha Prakriti Tattva as just as one, two poles. He talks about Annamaya Purusha. Then he also talks about Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha. He brings Purusha Tattva is the one which is like the Sakshi Bhava at every level. You understand? So this is the aspect. So even if you are dynamically working like on the battle, you are in the middle of a soccer field and you are playing, Sakshi Bhava is there, which is giving you quick intelligence. Move this way, move that way, move this way, move this way, in a way. So this aspect of awareness is constantly present everywhere. And so you should explore this in Sri Aurobindo's writings where he is talking about several Purushas. It's not several Purusha, but the Purusha aspect which is there at Annamaya, how it is present in Pranamaya, how it is present in Gnana. Second question about nationalism and Sanatana Dharma and all of that. For this, I would skip it. I won't go too much into detail, but a simple thing is, during the time when Sri Aurobindo was in the forefront of freedom struggle, nationalism was a very highly venerated, revered concept. Soon, because of the aftermath of world wars and all of that and the European experience and all of that, that is the banned and abandoned word. completely. Understand? So how do you bring Sri Aurobindo's vast interpretation of nationalism and salvage it from the Western thinking perspective and present it in its genesis, in its original strength? Unless you have the Sanatana Dharma fabric, you would not be able to explain it anyway. So therefore that becomes inextricable, nationalism and Sanatana Dharma, and from Sri Aurobindo's perspective. Hindutva, what it stands, where it stands, I think a lot of debate is going on. You can check it, and I would recommend, please refer to Brihat and their works. And they, in my view, I am also involved to some extent in contributing my guidance to them, but otherwise Raghav and their team is very good thinkers, very good articulation. They have understood all-sidedness of these aspects of it. Sri Aurobindo himself emphasizes why it is an existential imperative for us to have Sanatana Dharma as a fabric for anything to prosperously grow, because it has done so for millennia. For the future. I'm talking about for the future, not as our, oh, we are so great from the past. Relevance of Sanatana Dharma for the future. Okay?
Last question.
Oh, she has been raising hand for a long time. So, oh, you can meet me in person. Okay?
Pranam Swamiji. So I have a question. How the rishis has propounded the knowledge or science of yoga, or origin of universe and origin of life, like we see from the water, the fish. It is similar for the like Darwin theory and other things. So how the rishis has come up with this science or knowledge from their deep meditative states?
That's it. You have the answer. They have, how they came up? Concentration. Tapasya, primarily. Because they held a question like this and they did not yield till the answer is revealed. So like that is the reason why this kind of intuitive knowledge was flooding into our system. It's flood. Compared to now, we are pale shadow of our great dawns of the past. That sounds very pessimistic, right? But says Sri Aurobindo, but we are built for the future. This is extremely important, to hold this particular thing in a meditation. How to build the future. And there has been no other rishi in the modern context of India more than Sri Aurobindo who spoke about future. It is one thing to say there is no past, present, future, Trikala, everything is that is one way to go about it. But one way to say that no, there is future and we have to envisage this way. That takes yet another complete fearlessness to make a statement in that. So that's why I recommend Sri Aurobindo for that.
Yeah, so in previously, like we have concept of atom also, but currently the approach is different in scientific community. So how different was at that time?
So scientific community, rightly so, keeps recalibrating their articulation of their findings depending on the level at which the examination is being done of the material truth. Okay? So that's why we have gone to the quantum level, and then we have gone into more and more deeper level, and more it goes, it's obviously it is, at least we logically we think that they are going to go to more and more universal aspects. Somewhere or the other they will bump into something that is non-reducible truth, which our rishis have apprehended and called it Brahman or Atman. Non-reducible is Atman, no? That which cannot be reduced any further, that which cannot be khandana, it cannot be done any more khandana, so that is Atman. And they would also they might also suddenly, this is what fills up every speck of manifestation. It is what is present and nothing else is present. That is what we called it, all-pervading and all-permeating Brahman. Same thing is called Atman. Same thing is called Brahman. A bit, because we are humans, we say it is that which is, that cannot be further reduced, Atman. That which is all-permeating and all-pervading, which is Brahman, is verily the controller of all things that are manifest and unmanifest. The controller and the superseding force is called Ishvara. So the same tattva of the Atman, Brahman and Ishvara is coming in from all three sides, directions. If we say Ishvara, that's where science gets, that's problem. Okay? But we grow in our consciousness by meditating on Ishvara. From feeling completely subject and controlled and incapable, Shakti Vihina, we have to move to a direction of Shaktiman. So unless we meditate on Ishvara, we cannot move in that direction. Am I making sense? Thank you.
देश का युवा इतने सवाल पूछ रहा है and we told them that we have invited you for lunch. So before and after, as and when sir allows, you can, not while he's eating. You can probably reach out
No,
to
while
him.
eating also just sit. Beside.
Just sit.
No problem. We can have conversation.
Oh,
Eating
lovely.
to daily thing.
Okay.
I don't get to meet
all
you
our
every time.
volunteers. Oh, they have questions written. Yes. You'll ask later. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so
I am
much.
also here tomorrow attending Raghava's talk.
Yes.
So I am not running away. So I am not restless. I am come here because also opportunity to be in mother's lap, and be here in her grace. So
we are surprised that after 45 minutes of sitting and listening, usually I see different kinds of movements.
No, initially I thought they all went into samadhi, but it looked like something shifted. So we'll just take it.
Thank you so much.
Joy Ma.
Please be seated. Jaya has a 5-minute message for you all. Is on? Oh, okay. Okay. No, wait. Let Swamiji leave and then we will move.